In northern Botswana, there is a stretch of dry earth where almost nothing grows, just cracked soil, scattered thorn trees, and heat that rises off the ground in waves. Today it looks empty, silent. But 900,000 years ago, this place may have witnessed the closest humanity ever came to disappearing forever. Not a war, not an asteroid, not some dramatic final battle against predators. A slow collapse, a thinning. A generation where fewer and fewer children survived long enough to have children of their own. Until eventually, somewhere on Earth, the entire human species may have been reduced to around 1,300 breeding individuals. That is not 1,300 tribes, not 1,300 families, 1,300 individuals, small enough to fit inside a modern movie theater. And every person alive today may be descended from the survivors of that bottleneck. Which raises a terrifying question. How did human beings almost vanish before civilization even began? For most of history, we imagined early humans as unstoppable survivors, hunters with spears, masters of fire, creatures destined to dominate the planet. But evolution does not care about destiny. Most species that ever lived are extinct, and for a long time it looked like humans almost joined them. In 2023, a group of Chinese geneticists published a study in the journal Science that stunned anthropologists around the world. Using modern human DNA from over 3,000 people, they ran population simulations backward through time. The method is called FIT-COAL, short for Fast Infinitesimal Time Coalescent Process. It reconstructs ancient population sizes by measuring how genetic diversity changes across generations. And according to their model, around 930,000 years ago, something catastrophic happened. The effective breeding population of humans collapsed by nearly 99%. For roughly 117,000 years, the total number of reproducing humans may have hovered around 1,280 individuals. To understand how small that is, consider this. There are more tigers alive today than there may have been humans on Earth back then. One disease outbreak could have ended us. One drought, one bad generation. And the strangest part is that we still do not fully know what caused it. At that time, humans were not humans in the modern sense. Homo sapiens would not appear for another 600,000 years. These were earlier human ancestors, possibly Homo heidelbergensis, possibly late Homo erectus. The fossil record becomes blurry here, fragmented like broken bones buried too deep to fully recover. But we know the world they lived in, and it was becoming hostile. Around 900,000 years ago, Earth entered a period of extreme climate instability. Glacial cycles intensified. Temperatures swung violently. Forests that had once covered large parts of Africa began shrinking into isolated pockets. Rainfall patterns collapsed. Entire ecosystems transformed within a few thousand years, which sounds slow to us, but in evolutionary terms, it was chaos. Imagine waking up in a landscape your grandparents would not recognize. Rivers gone. Animals migrated away. Fruit trees dead. Grasslands expanding into dry open plains where there used to be shade. Now imagine trying to survive there with stone tools and fire that could barely be controlled. That was the world early humans faced. And unlike the predators around them, humans were physically unimpressive. No claws, no fangs, no speed. A leopard could outrun them. A hyena could overpower them. Even chimpanzees were significantly stronger pound for pound. Human survival depended on cooperation. And cooperation becomes fragile when resources disappear. Most people think extinction happens suddenly. A volcano erupts, a comet strikes, everything dies overnight. But real extinction is often quieter than that. It begins with fewer births, smaller groups, longer walks between water sources, children dying during dry season, a hunting party that does not return, a woman giving birth to a child during famine and not producing enough milk to keep it alive, again and again and again, until entire bloodlines vanish without leaving a trace. And here is what makes this bottleneck so haunting. It may have shaped every human being who came after it. When a species shrinks to such tiny numbers, genetic diversity collapses with it. Certain traits disappear forever. Others spread rapidly through the surviving population simply because there are so few individuals left. You are carrying the consequences of that bottleneck right now. Every human on Earth is surprisingly genetically similar, much more similar than chimpanzees living only a few hundred miles apart. Two random humans from opposite sides of the planet share about 99.9% of their DNA. That is unusual for a species spread across the entire globe. And one possible reason is that at some point, there were almost no humans left to diversify in the first place. We may all descend from an evolutionary near-death experience, but the story gets stranger. Because some researchers think this bottleneck did not just threaten humanity, it may have created humanity. Around this same period, the fossil record in Africa changes dramatically. Some older human lineages disappear. Brain sizes begin increasing more rapidly afterward. Stone tools become more sophisticated over time. Social coordination appears to intensify. It is possible the catastrophe selected for traits that made humans more adaptable, not stronger, not faster, smarter together. The real advantage was never individual survival, it was collective survival. An isolated human dies quickly, a connected group survives longer. This may be why human beings became obsessed with social bonds, why loneliness hurts physically, why rejection activates some of the same brain regions as pain, why humans will risk their lives for strangers they barely know. Because for most of our evolutionary history, separation from the group was death. Your nervous system still remembers that, even now. Today, most people fear public speaking more than predators. Social humiliation triggers panic responses originally designed for survival in tiny tribal groups where losing status could mean abandonment. The modern world feels advanced, but emotionally, we are still carrying Stone Age wiring built during periods when humanity itself was fragile. And here is the twist almost nobody talks about. The real threat may not have been the climate. It may have been isolation. Climate change alone does not automatically destroy a species. Animals survive harsh climates all the time. What destroys species is fragmentation, small disconnected populations, groups cut off from one another long enough that they cannot recover when disaster strikes. Early humans likely survived because some groups stayed connected across vast distances. They exchanged mates, shared knowledge, passed down survival strategies, fire-making techniques, migration routes, water locations. Not civilization, not technology, information. That may have been the first true human superpower. And once you see that, modern life starts to look different. Because today, humans are more connected than ever digitally, yet many people live with levels of social isolation our ancestors would have considered terrifying. You can spend an entire day interacting with screens and still never feel seen by another human being. You can live in a city of 20 million people and feel completely alone. Our ancestors survived because they depended on each other absolutely, emotionally, physically, socially. Modern life rewards independence. Evolution rewarded belonging. Those are not always the same thing. Some anthropologists believe early human groups during the bottleneck may have consisted of only a few dozen individuals traveling constantly across dangerous terrain. Small fires at night, children sleeping close to adults, every injury potentially fatal, every pregnancy a risk, every season uncertain, and yet somehow they endured. For over 100,000 years, long enough for the climate to stabilize, long enough for populations to recover, long enough for humanity to continue. Think about the odds of that. Generation after generation surviving on the edge of extinction with no understanding of genetics, climate systems, or evolution. They did not know humanity was disappearing, they only knew the next day had to be survived, and eventually, against every probability, it was. The descendants of those survivors spread across Africa, then into Asia, Europe, Australia, the Americas. They painted caves, built cities, invented religion, crossed oceans, split the atom, walked on the moon. Every civilization in history emerged from a species that once nearly vanished into silence, and the evidence may still exist inside your cells. That is the unsettling thing about human history. The line between survival and extinction was never as wide as we imagine. It was thin, sometimes impossibly thin. A few thousand people, a few thousand choices, a few thousand children surviving long enough to grow old and have children of their own. That was enough. Right now, there are over 8 billion humans alive on Earth, cities visible from space, satellites orbiting overhead, machines carrying information across continents in milliseconds. It feels permanent, stable, too big to fail. But 900,000 years ago, somewhere beneath a dark African sky, a small group of exhausted humans sat around a fire surrounded by predators and drought and cold. And if just enough of them had failed to wake up the next morning, none of this would exist. Not history, not civilization, not you.